everybody, I'm Milax, and in today's episode, you'll hear an interview with Luxelle, the creator of Newsbee and the Town Crier, and one of the earliest players of Gemstone 2 back when that was a thing. We talk about the early history of Gemstone, her love of family stories and books, and her role in shepherding an idea born out of personal frustration into one of the game's most iconic and useful services. So, with that, welcome to the 5th episode of Town Square Central. Let's start out with your personal life. What part of the world do you live in?
I live in California, so we're over here on the whichever direction coast that is. In our world, that's the right coast.
Yeah, the left coast to me. I'm an East Coaster now, although I was born in California and I actually miss it a lot. Yeah, but like a lot of Californians, my family fled up north to Portland because houses were so expensive down there.
Well, see, you were living in one of those big old places then.
We were, yeah, which is probably why we had to leave. Okay, and then other than Gemstone, what do you like to do in your spare time?
I write a lot, and one of the things I love to write, and I come back and forth to it all the time, is family history stories. So, from the time I was in high school, I would bug my grandparents to tell me about their grandparents and the family stories. And so it's been something I've been doing for a long time. I made notes of everything, and now I'm trying to get small 3-4 paragraphs narrated and recorded about these great grandfathers and great uncle whoever and all those kind of things. So I love to do that, and some of them there's not much to tell. I subscribe to Ancestry a couple times a year, and we'll go and dig up just the brass facts and then use that to fill in with some stuff. It helped me understand some of my great she's just one great, I guess, my great grandmother, who had a really hard life, and it helped me to understand, to put all the facts that I could find and put them all together in kind of a timeline so that I could help to tell her story.
So yeah, when you do that, are you relaying like purely factual accounts, like this person was born in this year in this place and died in this place, or is it more sort of
I
historical fiction?
Yeah, I put the stories on it so that somebody can like look at that and say, well, look at that. Grandma Stokes was born here and moved there. This is why she moved there. Oh my gosh, look what happened to her there. And then fill in with, bits of the stories that I know from the rest. So she and her sister were not born too far apart. One of them dyed their hair bright red all their life. The other one dyed her hair, jet black all her life. I mean, these ladies lived to be old.
Yeah.
And it was just like a really funny thing. And all there are black and white pictures of both of them. Who would know,
Yeah. So you're like imagining the interior life of these people, not just sort of exploring like the basic genealogical facts about them.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not at all a surprising habit for someone who's really into Gemstone, I have to say, right? Like there's so much imaginative work that goes into this game that it's not at all hard for me to imagine like I'm into my ancestry and then also trying to explore that space there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the next generations have a little bit of backing in case any of them ever get interested. And sooner or later, kids, grandkids, somebody starts asking about, where did you come from?
Yeah, no, my spouse is very into tracking down and passing on these kinds of stories too. And when she met my father's enormous family, it was like going around interviewing in a very systematic way all of the older people there to find out like, well, where'd you come from? What's your family like? And it didn't make sense to me, but I think it's starting to make more sense now. Like she's just into stories and there's power in that.
There is. And And they're the only people who know those stories, so get them while
Yeah,
you can.
that's true. Yeah, and then they're gone.
Yeah, it's kind
Um,
of like being in Gemstone. There are people who know things, and you know, and they go away and they didn't share them or write them down with anybody, and nobody knows now. So
well, we're
I've been
we're
amazed after returning to Gemstone after all those years. I've been amazed at two things. First of all, how many things nobody remembers anymore, and how many things there are that people still do remember. So I was amazed at both ends of that.
well, and that also that gets at two things. One thing that gets at is it's sort of like the private psychosis driving the work you do with Newsby, right? Like this idea of like documenting and sharing information about of just about the world with others. And two, actually, Keelik told me that you played Gemstone in the very, very early days,
I
and that
did.
you would be a great person to talk to about what the game was like then versus what the game is like now. Because I'll be honest, I played 20 years ago,
Mhm.
25 years ago, something like that. And I still don't feel like I really knew what was happening then. You know, I was not an involved player. I was just sort of a casual player. So I would be curious to know if you could share sort of like the history of the progression of the game. I'd be curious to know about what changes you've seen.
Well, it was 1987, and Gemstone 2 was in beta on Genie, and David Watley would like bother me every several days. You've got to come and try this. You've got to come and see this. And I'm like, "Oh, really? I have other things to do." He's gonna laugh if he ever hears this, and he'll remember. And so finally, he's like telling me, "Come and see this, come and see this." And so my thought was, if I do this, he'll shut up and go away.
Yeah, little did you know, right?
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
But that's why I did it. That's why I went in there. I suspect he probably may have known that too, and was probably smiling, thinking, "Oh, she'll like it. She'll like it." And so I walked into Gemstone 2 completely unprepared for what I would find. It was a fairly rough world at the time. There wasn't even a whisper command. So he walked me over to the inn that was right off of the main spot at Square Bluffs. And that's where Helga worked, by the way. There was this parrot in there. I don't, the parrot disappeared before the game it did. And so he was showing me stuff. And at that point in time, I realized, I want to ask him some stuff, but it's probably not in character. It's probably not cool. And so he had just shown me the act command. So I did something or another to indicate I was trying to whisper. And he's like, "One moment, please." I don't know what I was waiting for. So the screen went dead, except for the parrot and, Helga yelling every once in a while. And I'm telling you, in 6 minutes, he had a whisper command.
Wow.
That amazed me. And then I could whisper and I don't even remember what I wanted to ask him. It was just, your first time in Gemstone, you have lots of questions.
So wait, is it fair then to say that you are the origin of the whisper command in the game? I'm gonna say it.
No.
I think so. I think so because you wanted to do it, you couldn't do it, and then you made it happen. You're the
Well,
mother of whispers. I'm gonna go with it. It's sticking. All right, so
oh,
you're whispering in Gemstone 2.
yep. And I asked him, and there it was. So yeah, that's how new the game was at that point in time. They had combat just about started. A couple weeks went by, and I went back in, and it was much better by then. And there was a small group. By the time Gemstone 2 got to 30 players, it was getting really rocky. 30 players, 36 players guaranteed a crash.
Wow.
During events, whether it was somebody's wedding or, a merchant thing, all sorts of people would log in because you were attending this, whatever it was. Yeah, by the time it got to 32, you knew we were in trouble. Before Gemstone 2 was over with and done with and they closed it off, we counted the success of a wedding in how many crashes there were. So that's why there's Gemstone 3. I mean, they spent months getting it ready and to get it converted over
So this
because
was like
now
a
he understood
tiny community of players then.
it was very
I
small.
mean,
Yeah.
like the Gemstone 4 community is by, I guess, contemporary standards, like very small. But you're
Mhm.
talking literally just a few dozen players.
Well, probably more than that because they were never there all at the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm
Wow.
pretty sure there were less than 100 people at about that time. Then because how much patience do you expect anybody to have when
Right.
the game crashes?
Yeah.
Semitronics had to be feeling that pressure too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So yeah, and so they made Gemstone 3, and so Gemstone 2 was the original Elanthea. This is all um, you know it was literally created for that. I stay in touch with a couple people still that played Gemstone 2. I've met them, and no, none of them are playing Gemstone 3.
No.
Yeah, no, I'll work on them. Hi
Yeah.
guys.
Everyone comes back eventually, right?
It kind of looks that way, huh?
Yeah.
And so at any rate, so yeah, Gemstone 2, there were only compared to what Gemstone looks like now, there were only a few rooms. So I'm going to say I can't imagine that there were even 500 rooms in Gemstone 2.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't, there was, somewhere it probably exists in a database and somebody at Semitronics might be able to tell you, but it was pretty small. And some of the hunting areas were, again, pretty small. So yeah, they were, as the game grew, in Gemstone 2's world, it became a little unstable to support all those people. And so you would walk in and log in and you never knew what was going to be missing. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that it sounds like the Wild West days.
It was, and it was a great deal of fun doing it. We would roll our eyes or whatever, but we still played it and we still had a great time. And so Luxelle was my first character in Gemstone 2. When we moved to Gemstone 3, you had to start all over again
Wow.
from experience 0 because they moved to an entire new gaming system. So it was really sad you had to leave Elanthea behind.
Yeah.
And so my Gemstone 2 characters stayed in Elanthea. But I thought, hey, I can resurrect her again, although she wasn't a bard. There were no bards. So in Gemstone 2, there were 4 classes, and you were a fighter, a mage, a cleric, or a thief.
Hmm.
That was it. There were probably 4 races too. I'm not sure whether there were more than that. There were halflings, humans, elves, dwarves. I think that's all. I'm not
Hmm.
sure there were any more than that. And if you
Yeah.
wanted to do or be anything else, yeah, you were out of luck.
I mean, that feels like sort of like the basic role-playing game archetypes, right? Both in the classes and the races. So it kind of makes sense that that's where the game would have started.
Yeah. So it was great fun.
Yeah.
So you'll have to go get David Watley to get you an interview next.
Yeah, I'm gonna track down David, and
Okay, here's his
100% confident he'll agree to an interview.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
We'll do one more personal question before we
okay.
move into more gemstone focused stuff. But I like to ask this of everybody. And you actually, I think, kind of pointed out very politely that I should expand the way I ask this question. The way I've been asking people is, what is one TV show, one movie, and one game that everybody in the world should experience? And you pointed out, I think with a few exclamation marks, what about books?
Yeah,
And what about music? So
yeah.
take any of those categories. What is some form of entertainment that you think that everyone in the world should experience at some point?
Just one, huh?
You don't have to pick one. You can pick as many
Oh,
as you
okay.
want.
All right. So, well, books. I love to read. Reading is something I've done since I was a kid. So yeah, the my favorite author wrote a book called Tagana, Guy Gavriel Kay, It's an amazing book. I go back every few years and reread it. And I don't reread books.
Yeah.
So it's called Tagana. It's like the best book ever written.
I'm all right. Well, I'm sold. I've never heard of it. Give me a like headline pitch. Like, what is this book?
Oh, it's high fantasy.
Okay.
It is
I'm not
high
I'm not
fantasy.
surprised, but okay.
I cut my teeth on science fiction and then I moved to fantasy, and I've never gotten over that.
Yeah. Okay.
And a book I read, I guess it was at the end of last year, was a book that one of our own gemstone players wrote,
Oh.
and it is called The Prometheus Effect. And everybody should go download that to their Kindles or whatever, because he wrote a great book. It's on Amazon.
I haven't heard of that either. All right. So
Hey, well, that was his first book out the door. You'll be amazed at it.
wow. Okay, so we have those two books. What about music?
I probably have odd tastes in music. So in addition to all the wonderful songs that play on the radio and whatever they are, I just generally love all music. But I'm a big fan of composers. So Ennio Morricone has scored many, many, many films. He is literally my favorite composer in the entire world. And so you would know him from back in the day when he was popping out hits for movies and stuff. He's the one who did all the spaghetti westerns.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll find Good, Bad, and the Ugly,
Yeah,
which was not exactly high on my list, but it's an extraordinarily memorable song.
yeah. Well, it's
But
iconic.
yeah, it is. And so nearly everything he does is iconic for what it is. So he did the score for The Mission.
Mm.
He has done just so many amazing songs. So he's my very favorite. There's a group that has already disbanded. I discovered them and then they went away. So maybe you can call me, responsible for that too. But they're called the Civil Wars. They were brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. It's kind of, I don't know, folky alternative music. Really awesome stuff.
Okay. Well, now I have even more homework, so that's great.
You do.
Yeah. Okay, and then do you want to pick anything from the game, movie, TV show category?
Oh, Firefly.
Oh,
Can
yeah,
we
it's
just
great.
Firefly?
It's great.
Everybody should read Firefly. Not read it, but well, they anyway. Yeah, watch Firefly because
Yeah.
it's really awesome stuff.
And
And
like a
since it's almost the 4th of July, every year I watch the Independence Day, the
yeah.
first one, of course,
Yeah.
because it's just such a fun movie.
It's an incredibly fun movie.
It is.
Yeah. No, and Firefly, that I think that one of the great tragedies of TV history is that show was so short-lived
No kidding.
because it was so great. I mean, it was just an incredible show.
It was. I don't even understand why it didn't go on and on. So, and I was late to that as well. My daughter would tell me, "Mom, you've got to see this. You'll really like it." And I'm like, "Okay, honey."
Yeah. Whatever you
Sure,
say, kid.
sure, honey, that'll be fine. And then
Yeah.
it went off the air, and she says, "Oh, well, we bought the DVDs. You can borrow 'em, our DVDs." I'm thinking, "Okay, honey." The DVDs sat here for like a year.
Yeah. And then you finally did it and you were like, "Oh, you were right all along."
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been known to sit on recommendations for way too long too. Yeah. My favorite book that I've ever read, which is by Adam Johnson, it's called The Orphan Master's Son.
Oh,
It's
wow.
absolutely an amazing book. And my mom gave me a copy of it, I mean, years and years ago. And being the like surly brat that I was like, I'm not going to read something my mom recommended, even
Right.
though my mom has great taste in books. And then one day I picked it up and read it, and it's the greatest book that I've ever read. And so,
Yeah.
just goes to show that you're not alone in sitting on recommendations.
Well, now I'm gonna have to read the book. What it is? Just tell me it's not horror. I'm not fond of
No.
horror.
It's I would say it's like contemporary, or I guess like present day historical fiction, in that it
Mm.
follows this character in North Korea,
Oh,
and it imagines life in North Korea, and it's weird and imaginative, but also like well researched and informative. Like
well, there you go.
yeah, it's just a unique book, and is super powerful and amazing. And I've never met someone who didn't love it. So could you just talk about the inception of that project again? How it was born out of frustration?
Yeah, because I didn't know what was going on, when or where or why. I
Yeah.
didn't know what the announcements were, and I couldn't, you know, I actually had to learn to go use the forums. So,
Those
our tagline at the town crier, we normally only use this internally. We don't normally say it out loud, but I'm going to go ahead and share it with you. We say we read the forums, so you don't have to.
Yeah, that is a great tagline because those forums are so antiquated and frustrating and
They
old
are.
and confusing. And like they feel like no one actually touches them ever, you know?
Right, and you wanna know, it took me 2 weeks to learn how to get a good link that I could give to other people
Yeah.
from the forums, and I would blow it every once in a while, and, so Alarelli is the one who took me aside and said, "Here's how to make a good link from the forum." It's like, "Thank you, Alarelli."
Yeah, invaluable skill that.
It is, and who would know? I mean, it wasn't obvious at all.
Yeah. So you came back to the game after being gone for a while and felt out of the loop and decided just to act on that frustration to better
Yep.
Gemstone for everybody.
Yep. And first it was just me. We didn't even advertise it. Other people advertised the Town Crier channel for us. And because I am generally a very shy person. I don't like to put things out there, and I felt like it might be over bragging or overselling or something if I advertised about the new Town Crier channel. So I didn't. And so news spread and people told other people. And every once in a while, you'll see Newsby now will pop up with a little blurb on Prime or on Help that reminds people that the Town Crier is there. But that doesn't even happen once a day.
Yeah.
I'm just shy. How's that?
No, yeah, that's fair.
And so anyway, so yeah, our people in our Dragon Realms refugee chat said this was a great idea. Everybody wanted it, and that's how it came to be.
Wow.
I had to
Okay.
learn Ruby to do it. I had to learn, some pretty tricky things in Ruby for somebody who'd never picked up Ruby before. And there it was. I sat at a table in Telestum and on my own private channel on Lich until I could get it to all work. And then other people approached me after they would learn of it to to find out how they could help. Sometimes somebody would be extra helpful about things, and I'd just be bold enough to say, we could use somebody who does that.
Yeah.
And some of them said yes.
And so you went from confusion to frustration to wanting to make this thing for other people. And how long did that whole process take you?
Oh, 3 weeks.
Wow.
Pretty much 3 weeks. But I'm not sure I got much hunting or anything else done in those 3
I
weeks.
mean, that accomplishment. There are people who play this game who don't get much hunting done anyway, and they're not trying to build like a website and a Twitter feed and a mailer and all these other things just to inform
Oh,
other
well, yes,
people of
but
what's
all
happening.
of those came later, and all of them came one at a time. So
Okay.
I have grand plans for the town crier. I have a whole list of things that need to be done, but we can't do them until we know we can keep the basic core town crier services running well.
Well, you're doing great so far, and I personally am very excited for the Town Crier tattoos and Town Crier t-shirts that will be coming out soon.
Awesome. I hope they do.
I actually would totally wear a Town Crier t-shirt if it existed. I'm just saying, if you need to do a fundraiser, I think a clothing line could work.
A clothing line. I do know a guy who makes t-shirts too.
There you go.
There you go.
You've got a t-shirt guy.
I do. Yeah. Yeah, my old job, and I did all the promo and graphics and stuff, and I was constantly calling him up to get t-shirts.
Wow.
After we added Twitter, the next thing we did was email because there were many people who kept wanting to hear what news we did, but quote, I don't do Twitter, unquote.
Yeah.
And B, I don't have Lich. Well, if you would get Lich, you could listen to Newsby.
Yeah.
No, they didn't want to do that. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to lecture you about how you should do things.
Yeah.
And so I started an email newsletter of just the new headlines that day. I figured the whole thing was just silly because they could just look back in yesterday's mail for yesterday's headlines. And so that got started. And the last thing we added was a page of the entire set of today's headlines at the website. So we put up a Town Crier website, and that's gstowncrier.com. And so that those are the places that have to get ready every single day. And so I do that around 11 p.m. my time. That's California time, to get that all set up. And then so Newsby essentially, changes time to the next day around 2 a.m. ish Eastern time.
So how much work is involved on a day-to-day basis?
More than you think.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a good hour and a half from the moment I sit down to say, okay, I need to produce the news right now. Sometimes it's much longer, because there's more things to put in, and because it's just not as automated as you think it ought to be. Because one can only Ruby so well. Okay,
Yeah,
I
right.
just don't have those skills, guys.
And you're doing this all just out of the goodness of your heart, born out of that initial frustration to try to make the game a better place for everybody, right? Like, you're not making money on this, or you're not doing it for pay, you're just doing
Oh
it.
yeah, no, I just do it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, because and it was needed. I really do believe it was needed.
Oh, absolutely. There have been countless times that I have been like excited for something, like someone's coming to do this service or this event or whatever, but then I forget about it, right? Because I get distracted. And then
Mhm.
I see something pop up on Lich, and I'm like, oh no, I need to get over there in like 2 minutes. And it saved my butt a number of times. So,
Yeah, me
I,
too, and I write it. Okay, like,
okay, yeah.
oh no, look, Newsby reminded me about this. So
That's that's pretty great. You're creating, it's like gone full circle there.
it is.
Yeah. So what then would you say is the best part of working on this project for you?
Our the people that help and make up the Town Crier team are by far the best people. We have fans out there who aren't even part of the team, and they will send in news. There are people who will tattletale on somebody when they get to level 100. People who send just the other day, Snag sent in like 5 tips. They're sitting in my thing to be able to parse out over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So there's brand new tips there. And so the people who either help by supporting us like that, and our Town Crier team members, they're just all amazing, because
Yeah.
again, nobody has to do this.
The cool part to me is that it is voluntarily and community driven. That these are just people who are like, oh yes, this is a good idea. I'd like to be a part of it to help other people. I think that's unusual, and it's pretty cool.
It is. They're really special people.
Yeah. What then, other than the sort of daily grind of putting in an hour and a half or more of work into getting this together, what is the most challenging or frustrating part of this work?
It's probably tracking down good information, because the rumors fly at the speed of light or the
Yeah.
speed of lich.
Yeah.
And we try not to put anything up there that somebody hasn't verified. And so that's probably, one of the most difficult things. I will take something up to the whole team. Is like, well, do we do this or do we not? And there's really happy, wise people in there, and they'll say, go for it. Or they'll say, maybe blah, 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 whatever it may be. There is something that um, they have good advice about, and we won't do it. So it just kind of depends. But for the most part, I think that's probably the most difficult, is just tracking something down, especially in the middle of events. Eben Gate is so huge, and it's really, really busy for us. And last Eben Gate, Rovigen decided he wanted to stay on top of all the raffles, and whatever, and the other things that were going on, like raffles. And I think it almost killed him after like even the third day. It's like, whoa, it was huge. And then people piled in and helped him cover. We had raffles at the same time in different locations. And so it's those kind of things that need immediate attention that are always the most challenging.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing to me about what you just said, that sounds like an actual newsroom, right? Like you're deciding, should we print this thing or not? Like do we have two reliable sources on it? Like, can you track down the evidence we need to run this story? Like it's like real. That's like what a real newsroom does.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it would be. But yeah, that's what we do. So we attempt to be responsible. We figure there's enough, bad information out there that it's not going to come
Yeah.
from us.
No, I think you're actually more responsible than some like actual news sources out there in the world. But that's maybe a different episode.
It really is.
Yeah.
Maybe even a different podcast.
Yeah, probably a different podcast. I think I'm going to stay far away from politics. So how then can folks support your efforts? Because you're producing this wonderful thing for the gemstone community. What can people do to help? Or what would you like people to do to show their gratitude and appreciation? Like, yeah, what would you like?
Keep feeding us the news. Let us know when your buddy Bubba over there caps. What's the
Yeah.
worst that can happen? He'll kill you over it, right?
Yeah, right?
But he gets no experience, so it's okay. Helping that way, we can always use tips. I very carefully expand the team. This is not something you can just like walk into an event and join like any other meeting house organization. Doesn't happen like that. Everybody's vetted before you become a member of the town crier. It's essentially an old school blackball event.
Yeah.
And I walk in with a name, and the first person who tosses down a black ball, it's pretty much over right there, because we have to have people who can work with each other. And on top of that, together we are wiser than just me alone. I don't know what's going on in Ice Mule, for crying out loud. I
Yeah.
really just don't. I don't know who lives in River's Rest and whether they're responsible that could join the team. I don't know everybody in Gemstone. It's just not 30 people anymore. I
Yeah,
can't
right.
tell you.
Yeah.
And so altogether, we're just much, much wiser, and that's the way it works.
That's a really beautiful sentiment, and I think that it speaks to sort of the power of the project that you're working on.
Yeah, and as for what they can do, we're still looking for people who can help with some of the technical edges of it. So our internet here at home has been a little rockier than it has been for a long time. Our internet here is usually just rock solid, but you'll notice over the last 3-4 weeks there have been extended times when Newsview is just not online, and it's because I lost my internet here, or I lose it late at night, and I'm not staying up to wait for it to come back on. And so, it waits till the next morning before Newsby can get back to Gemstone. So I'm hoping that there's a way to be able to move Newsby into, like a Google Cloud app or something. But I just don't have quite all those skills. I am happy to learn them, though.
So people who know how to do that, go talk
Yeah.
to Luxelle.
Yes, please.
Okay, then two more questions for you. And this one I was asked to ask you by somebody else for reasons that I don't think I'm supposed to say, but this question is, what are 3 things that haven't been offered for sale in game for a very, very long time that you'd like to come back?
Oh, I don't know. You have to understand that where I came from, there were not many things you could ever buy, and so I'm actually still adjusting to the new world of Gemstone. So when something last year at Ebongate, all these things came back that were old scripts. They've been kind of resurrected and have a little new shine on them, but they were old beloved scripts. It's like they were all new to me. So all of that stuff is new to me. So in my world, the most amazing thing that I ever saw in 1990s Gemstone that I saw for sale, and it was only at the end of a very high priced auction. And there was somebody with money still in his pocket. I'm not going to name names because this is a story I'm working up for Luxelle to actually be able to tell in game. But there was everything had been purchased, and he had lost the auction that he really wanted, or the price had gotten to more than he wanted to pay. And the lady on his arm leaned over and whispered something to him, and he kind of shrugs at her like, there's nothing else to buy.
Yeah.
They didn't have one of those. I have no idea what went on there. And in the auctioneer's case, if you looked in it, it was empty except for a dust bunny in the corner. Do you know that that guy asked the price of the dust bunny? And for months, that dust bunny was the coolest thing in Gemstone.
So he actually got the dust bunny.
Oh, for many, many, many silvers.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great.
So anyway, yeah, it's a story, and there you go.
Okay, all right. So Luxelle wants a dust bunny.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, I'm not sure I really need a dust bunny, but really, there's just not many things that are old and out there, and the things that are most precious to me are things that come attached with memories of other people or other characters, or my own old character. Um, so those things are precious. So, Dreamweaver was my Ice Age character. Before that, it was Natasha, the first part of it. So I have all of the stuff that belonged to Dreamweaver, in her vault, and there are things in there I would never ever sell because they were that precious. But in the world today, they're worth nothing.
Yeah.
I have trotted out some rare metal weapons. Every couple months, I will sell one because those weapons mean nothing to me. They're just rare old metal swords from back in the day.
Yeah.
But the things that were precious on her are the things that are still precious. She has a ring, a Rayan ring, Rayan was who Rohan is now. Rohan, however you want to spell his name or say it. And so she has one. That was a really rare thing to come by in those days. And she wears that ring, and I would never part with it.
Hmm.
So anyway, so in general, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer, and I think the person who asked it will be satisfied by it. And,
Good.
and a little frustrated by it, but that's okay. And then
nerve stick, I love though. Okay, so props to the nerve stick.
yeah, those are great. Those are
Yep.
great. I sold mine because I wasn't playing my sorcerer much, and I really regret it. I think that was a bad decision.
So yeah, somebody bring some nerve sticks back for everybody who needs one.
Yeah, just free nerve sticks would make me happy anyway.
Yeah, free nerve sticks for everybody. You could run on that platform.
Yeah, that's right. Me for mayor. So Luxelle, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the Town Crier and the history of Gemstone. It was awesome to hear from you. We really appreciate you being on the show.
It's been awesome. And again, thank you very much. In Luxie's phrase, that would be thank you ever so much.
Ever so much.
Having me here.
Yeah, this has been great. Many thanks to Luxelle not only for being a delightful interviewee, but also for all of her work with the Town Crier, which served in part as my inspiration for creating a podcast. Thanks also to Luxelle and to Ted for their generous support on Patreon, which helps to make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron of the show, please check out the Patreon page linked in the episode notes. You'll find out all about different patron benefits and all that kind of fun stuff there. As always, I can be reached via gsivpodcast@gmail.com for comment or questions. That's all for today's episode. Catch you next time on Town Square Central.
So I guess we'll find out what we didn't answer then, huh? In the feedback.
Exactly. Like, why didn't you talk about this?